welcome to Nress Endor. I've been doing some work on it, and it's been coming along very, very well. I still got quite a bit of work to do. Need to work on the headquarters of Theron's faction, or church, or little cult, you could say. And I want to take my time with that. But also, probably one of the next things I'm going to be doing is working on the Grand Bazaar area, because this area is important. These 5 hexes are going to be basically the financial heart of the city in many ways. There's going to be ships docked all on every edge. There's going to be docks of people coming in, coming to purchase. It's even going to be areas to dock on the inside here. And speaking of the centers of the city, the Colosseum that's been built here, designed by Niccolo Dandolo. Thank you very much, Niccolo. It's going to be connected to each of these areas by 5 different bridges. And this Colosseum is a marvel of engineering. You thought the Beatrice statue over here that can come alive is impressive? The bleachers are designed so that either this side or this side can fold in to the other, and it stops being a Colosseum and instead becomes a one-way, huge amphitheater. It's absolutely feat of engineering. Speaking of Niccolo's house, I've talked about before, his Clockwork Mansion, if you guys ever go there, will be so much fun. And he's exactly where he wants to be. He's near the mercantile heart of the city, that's pretty neat, but he's also right at the doorstep of the Arete. And Central Command, and not too far away from the palace of our great Imperatrix. Probably most of his time is going to be spent here. The Arete. Center of education within the Emerald Breach. Each of these 4 towers is the center of a different discipline of education. But the campus stretches out further beyond that. And there's plenty of areas, like these areas. They have little gardens for the students. Areas where students can learn and get taught outside. There's also, pretty much underneath all this these hexes are rather thick. These artificial hexes go about 10, 20, 30 feet under the water. And that space is being used here in the Arete for additional classroom spaces, research labs, all sorts of things. And Arete faculties probably also expand out a little bit into the college town and maybe under the bazaar a little bit too. They probably are going to want as much space as they can. College town, very beautiful. Looks great on the outside. A little bit rowdy on the inside. These college students can party pretty hard, but they also study hard. The Arete is not a pushover institution, which is why they always have to stay wired if they hope to be able to make it on the streets of invention. This little path is basically where all the storefronts or workstations are for a lot of the major artificers of the city. This is prime real estate if you're an inventor and want your things seen. And it's wacky to walk down here. Think about like steampunk, like inventors riding their weird bicycles, or greeting you with their self-tipping hats, showing off all sorts of arcane and mechanical inventions. Many storefronts will have like little automaton that will wave you in, just like, "Hi, come and see the great velocipedes," because velocipedes could be a lot more fun of a word than bicycle, because you guys invented the bicycle. And there's probably little paths, so maybe around the High Grove Ward, where it is absolutely beautiful and cultivated for beautiful riding of said bicycle. The High Grove Ward is definitely one of the best places you can live in the city. Many rooftop gardens. It's absolutely gorgeous. So that's where the wealthy people, the political elite, are, and that's good for them because that leaves them near the embassy ward and also a very short jaunt to like the academy, the bazaar, or the palace. They're in the center of the city. They're exactly where they want to be. Um, but no, the inventors of the city definitely are a major defining factor. And the Grand Antelope Hotel, which I decided was going to be a thing when I visited the Marriott Marquis in New York City. I'm just like, Nicola would probably have something like this. A hotel of such incredible size, um, but also with like displays and like little areas that are just like, look at the future of air flight travel or other such, or where conventions and like what's the word? Reveal. We'll just say reveals can be held, um, and also can host many people. That has like it can host hundreds of people in its rooms. Um, it is earned the name Grand Hotel D'Angelo. Um, and it's right where it should be on like the streets of invention. And those inventors need to stay wired, which is why the coffee house market, most D&D settings, usually alcohol is what they live off of. Not here. We're very much breaking that mold. Inventors here need to stay wired, and if the coffee house doesn't do that, then I'm sure they can find something in the depths over here. A lot of those rowdy students will be spending a lot of time here. This is where we'll call this party central. Every single night, it is from dawn to dusk, or sorry, from dusk to dawn. A party for the entire time. Most smart students will probably be standing around here. This is like the safe area. The reason it's called depths is the deeper you go, the more crazy and dangerous, and also uh, it gets crazier the deeper you go, but also more dangerous. You're probably gonna get shanked. Um, Drow have a major presence in this area. Um, Much of the area underneath is actually being lived in. The underwater portions of these hex platforms are at least in this area, are being lived in and maintained by the Drow. Um, and they're actually quite livable. I mentioned at the beginning of the little series that Zach is running that my Drow had a small little porthole window that didn't have a great view. It was a small window that looked out of the water. But it was mostly just moss growing on the window and some seaweed that you could faintly see. But there are areas like at the Siren Scandal that they have a sub basement underneath their little stripper and bar rooms, and it is a beautiful chamber. It can hold many dancers, many viewers, and the main set piece is the large half circle wall that looks over at this entire underwater seascape over here. All the fish passing through, you can see the bottoms of the ships coming in and out of port. It is a spectacle. They at Siren Scandal, they really made the most of the underwater aspects of the hexes. There's the. I didn't realize there's multiple Drow gay bars. No, wait, one Drow gay bar. Multiple gay bars though. That makes sense. Honestly, I mentioned before this area is kind of unscrupulous. It is. Well, this is not. There are docks here, but this is where like smugglers are, slavers are docking. This is where the less reputable traders are coming to do their business. And that's depths, but also a bit of the tangles and the more lived-in part of the warehouse district. The warehouse district, not much to say about it. Ships come in, they unload cargo, which will be stored here, and eventually, hopefully, they'll be brought out to market when it's season. Season for the product. I mean, Usually the warehouses are for products that are going to be stored for long periods of time, objects in bulk, that kind of thing. The fishery district, it's exactly what it sounds like. There is a fish market around here, but most people will be buying their fish at the Grand Bazaar. Um, it's a lot less. It's a lot more pleasant. Um, and up here, above the depth, this area isn't too bad as long as you're like on the coastline. This is what we're looking at right now. Is the nice part of the blue tile ward. This part ain't bad. It's connected straight to the Grand Bazaar. Some pretty nice bars are here that you want to drink. Cloud9, which was for a time run by your Cloud Giant friend, and it is scaled accordingly. That's kind of its big gimmick, is the fact that it is big, very very big. Um, he's gotten bored, but it's still a very popular establishment, um, just because of the uniqueness of the size. Many tourists like to come in and check that place out. Um, you might be noticing this area is looking a little bit Final Fantasy VII with the overhanging sections of city over other less fortunate pieces of city, and that is true. Um, this area, the cogs, um, these elevated platforms, this is where manufacturing is going to be taking place. I haven't added the buildings yet, but I will be doing that soon. Um, so, but it's going to be the factories, production areas. Um, so there's many workers, but it also is, at least parts of it are nice enough for investors and other who's who when they come in to see like demonstrations or to see or get tours of the factory. And the poor people in like the worst areas of the Blue Tile Ward are just completely. Actually, it's not all bad. High kobold populations around here, and quite a bit of drow. And he race that does not like the sun, does not terribly mind the cogs, honestly. Um, the real worst places to live would be kind of up here. These were some of the earliest hex platforms that kind of broke down. Nicola was realizing some of the flaws in their design. Um, and so these areas are a little bit rough. Um, there's a reason why Nicole had to invent these giant hex platforms. These areas, the area of Nress Endor, the shoreline, is swampy. It's mucky. Any buildings built on it are gonna sink down. That doesn't stop some people from doing it. These are the tangles. These area is populated by we can call them beast folk, I guess. Um, the grung, the bullywugs, lizard folk, all those races that are don't mind the water, especially the grung. The grung almost have to live here. They need to stay wet perpetually. Um, and most of these races will just kind of swim around and don't mind the fact that most of their houses are half underwater. Uh, Surprise, surprise, lizard folk and the Bullywugs have not done a great job of maintaining their homes or building them, but it's definitely a unique area. Bridges have been added as people from the rest of the city will come and do trade there. Those are folk didn't mind just swimming across, but make this place definitely is a unique flavor of the city. If you can really even call it a part of the city, it's so different from everything else and culturally and divided from it. Ah, I know. The other day when you guys mentioned Emerald Reach Zoo, so I've been figuring out where that is. I'm guessing it'll be out here. It could be a part of the Grand Bazaar. I'll be thinking about that as I am laying out the buildings of this area. Ah, but let's move back to the nice area of the city. Of course, talked about the Arate. in Niccolo's house. And Niccolo is, of course, situated right next to the military command center, another place where he will be spending quite a bit of time. Um, Currently, there's stocked one of these hex fortresses, which can actually have ships stocked in these little hex areas, and are surrounded on all sides by cannons. They are terrifying. Um, Other nations are thankful that there's not too many, six tops. And one happens to be docked right now. But yeah, no, this is military command. This is where the Black Blades operate out of. Um, and Fittingly near that is the center of the entire kingdom, the Imperatrix's palace. The palace itself is mostly where, at least this back portion is where the Imperatrix lives and her family. Um, this area here actually has more of a basilica shape. Um, it has technically three entrances. Um, this one from military command, people will be brought in maybe for court martialing or people who've been detained. Uh, Civilians will often be either escorted in from the shipmakers ward entrance right over here, or this area can open up to let a ship go right in, so you can step right off the boat into the throne room. And I've shown pictures of the throne room before. It's very unique. It's very beautiful. Um, and and details aside from like the Dragonbone throne where Beatrix is, very imposing. Um, Another feature is the fact that there's water running through the center walkway of the throne room. Um, Streams of water that kind of flow into divots in the tile and flow out to the front area. There's also beautiful coral reef decorations built into like the pillars on the walls. And towards the side of the chambers um, is the elevated little stations where the who's who, the politicians, the big personalities who run the country can watch whatever proceedings, whatever marches, whatever trials are undergoing from an elevated position. Um, and that can be altered, as can Beatrice's throne and many other details. One of the images I had showed the walkway as being completely flooded, which would be quite uncomfortable and perturbing to someone who is walking towards the queen of the nation for some kind of trial. Um, it's not always flooded, but it can be. That can be turned on and off if you want to make whoever's having to make this trek more uncomfortable with their damp boots. Um, the observation platform of the nobles can also be risen and lowered, and so can Beatrice's throne if she wants to be extra imposing and maybe elevate herself 10, 15 feet off the ground at any point. Niccolo has very much was responsible for this palace, or at least the throne room part, um, and did not shy away from showing off. But yeah, most of these back parts, these towers and such, these are living areas of the Beatrice's family, Addex's family. More of the political center is around here. The palace's advisors, the nobles, um, these buildings are where they operate out of. I was gonna say the Pentagon, but I'd say the Pentagon's maybe a bit more military. Maybe that's closer to Central Command, but it's really kind of hard to say. Not too far away from that is the Embassy Ward. Very nice, very beautiful. Lots of tourists like to come here. I think around here is probably a walkway of various statues, probably showing events of Campaign 1. Um, and also City Hall is there. Um, what exactly? So I'm thinking about where is Ibex located? Might be this building or here. probably somewhere nearby. I'll have to figure that out. Maybe differentiate it, or at least label it, so that when you look at the map, you can see where Ibex is. Ibex, of course, spends a lot of their time as one of Beatrice's advisors, and does a lot of work in the city. They are not quite as busy as Nicolo, but they're pretty close. Um. Ah. Oh, right. The Shipmaker's Bay. Um. The other dock of the city. Some ships will be docked here for longer periods of time, or when they need their ships repaired. The EST shipyard is right here, as well, and EST's headquarters is probably also in this area. Though it could be in the Grand Bazaar. I'm still gonna figure that out. But this area right here is probably where some artificers are kind of like messing around with what a ship can be. Maybe designing like paddle boats and such. Having some fun with new Emerald Reach designs of ships. Fisheries, everything. That might be it. I'm having a lot of fun making this. The Emerald Reach is such a unique country, and this is such a unique city. For many reasons. And it's also a city that's kind of hard to wrap your head around a little bit. The fact that it's made of these artificial hex platforms, but the hex platforms also are like not they, in some areas more literally, and some areas kind of like visually they kind of melt into like the land, into the jungle around here. Um, it's not just a free floating area, though it could be. If anything ever happens, all of this can detach from the land and float away, or at least most of it. Some people in the high growth ward might need to relocate. And definitely a lot of the depth can detach. Sorry, Blue Tile Ward. Most of you probably is staying behind if that ever happens. But yeah, making this map right has been something I've been taking very slowly, and I'm glad that it's finally coming together. If any of you guys have any thoughts about some things that should be in the city that are missing from it, like the Emerald Suit wasn't something I had thought of before you guys mentioned it a few sessions ago. And you definitely need to add the little Grung's little shop that we had. Little things like that I'll have to be adding. But let me know.